Today I made a decision that kuanzia leo I will be unapologetic with my truths. Um, I mean, for a long time, you know, one thing to realize that for a very long time, I was conditioned to be a people pleaser. Is that um, and I found this after the whole story nimekuwa nikiambiana ya healing which I've been in for a very long time. But one of the things that I was conditioned was to shrink. Unafunzwa ku shrink about your own truths, and it's a form of manipulation. But I think 2025 I reclaimed my voice, and I'm not saying that the other years I did not. It's just that 2025 I am very vocal. So kuna mtu ameniuliza swali mzuri sana, in which I'll be honest and I'll be candid honest juu najua inaweza saidia mtu uko nje. So for me personally, and I know kila mtu akona story yake different, but for me personally, najua I was heavily involved in church. So for those who have not followed my story, nimeshare my story from I shared my story categorically juu I wanted people to learn where I came from and where I am. So one of the things that I shared was venye nilikujanga huku, venye niliteseka nikipitia, and then I was taken into a church, and then so I was in that church, nilianza kufunzwa, like I started engaging with God in levels zenye sikuwahi engage nazo nikiwa Kenya. But even in Kenya and here I was having some spiritual experiences that singeongelesha mtu kuhusu juu they will sound very weird and very bizarre. So in this church nilisaa for a very long time, and you know, the funny thing is that, man, God used me powerfully. I was a musician. I was used in praying events. I mean, you name it. I was part of a men's group yenye ilikuwa ina deal na watu wana deal na pornography. There was so many ways, man. I'm telling you, every single day of the week, mi hakuna wiki nilikuwa na kaa still. Every single day I was having things going, and I was having tremendous favor. So for me personally, nilikuwa nimebuild my core friendships walikuwa kwa watu from church. So those were my friends, and so mimi I had a desire to follow God in a way that ilikuwa very honest and very upright. And so one of my prayers was always like, the next person I meet, nikidate, I will marry them, and I did everything right to the T. And so what happened is that after my whole relationship thing 5 years ago, the thing is that the person mwenye nilikuwako naye, the first thing alikuwako Mkristu, ametembea all over the world, and they're still doing that. But umse alikuwa narcissist, umse alikuwa manipulative, umse alikuwako. So let me tell you, there are two people. So for me personally, I'm the kind of a person yenye mse, you can see my sin, you know, na like mimi, first of all, mimi mweusi. You know, I'm one person that my sin is outward. Kuna wase their sins are inwards. So umse, like some of the things alikuwa nafanya, like nilikuwa naongelesha watu juu around the community juu what happened is that there was a lot of fights. Hii stuff ilikuwa so toxic, and that's why it left a mark in my life. But I have already moved on. So when I share my stories, na share from a moved on person, mse mwenye na heal, just trying to share a story. So umse alikuwa very manipulative, but outwards mse anaenda mission trips. Umse alikuwa mekanyanga over 50 countries, na anafanya legit things for the kingdom of God. Kwa nyumba umse alikuwa something else, alikuwa kitu sikuwahi. And so for me, kila time kitu ikifanyika, mimi nilikuwa na blame. I was like, oh my god, sikuwa naelewa, like why it's so easy for ye kuaminika and for me not to be believed. And the funny thing was when walikuwa na muamini, most of them were my friends. So what happened is that hii kitu ilikuwa ko very toxic, so toxic. Juu I lost all my friends when push came to shove. Juu after tulifanya divorce na kila kitu, juu I was around juu when I got married in a church, plus Wakristo, they prophesied doom onto it. And so all this time my heart was getting hardened. Juu I was like, the gift of God has no sorrow. A true gift of God has no sorrow. And I was like, man, there's so much sorrow in this relation. I mean, and I was like, I had checked all the boxes of like, I waited, I I did not do anything outside the relationship. Umse nilimuona. I did not. I mean, I did all things legalistically. I did all things, and so one of the reasons as to why I got really affected and why I started drifting away was the response I nilipata from my Christian community. Juu kila mtu one by one they started leaving. One by one walianza kuzima simu. One by one they started pointing fingers. And so I'm dealing with so you gotta follow the story. Nime survive. I've gone 1 year where things 2 to 3 years where things are going good. Nimeingia kwa relationship imeenda mrama, and so niliachwa peke yangu. And so I could not believe that I was involved in something that had no foundation. So this is the first part as to why I started drifting away.